So in my experience, after 18 years and all of those t-shirts that are in my closet, sourcing is a 50-50 proposition. When the RFP hits your desk or hits your inbox, it could be coming from a young, inexperienced, but very eager, enthusiastic meeting planner, or it could be coming from a very seasoned professional who has a tried and true way of doing things, and they know what works for them, and they pretty much have a game plan of what they need for you to do to give them what they need in order to carry on and get this piece of business booked. So you never know what you're going to get, but the one thing that you do get is a chance from the very beginning to build an alliance. And you reach out, you introduce yourself, you say, hello, I'm so-and-so, and I got your RFP, and I'd like to learn more about your company. You have this chance right there to lay the first stone, the brick, the foundation for what hopefully is a good, healthy working relationship that leads to more opportunities, that builds a revenue stream, and that's if you're lucky. You know, you make that good impression, they keep sending RFPs because they like you. If you're really, really fortunate, what develops after time is not only a healthy working business and professional relationship, but a socially fulfilling friendship. You know, somebody that you reach out to at various times of the year and you stay in touch with. So after 18 years of doing this, I think I've pretty much seen it and done it all, and there aren't a whole lot of surprises out there for me anymore. So I'm kind of sitting here speaking to you as the dinosaur of sourcing and meeting planning. So I feel there are a few gems that I can share with you that you can then use to develop relationships and find ways to book some business. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to ask the questions. There you go. Don't ever be afraid to ask questions, because Lord knows you get into the right meeting planner, they can bring you a lot of repeat business. So this RFP hits your desk. You're not familiar with who it comes from. You don't know the company. What do you do? Well, you do some research, and literally it has never ever been easier to do research. You've got LinkedIn, you have Hoover, you have Google, and I know you have a myriad of other opportunities out there that you can go online and look up that are going to tell you some things about this company and maybe even about the person that sent you the RFP. Read the RFP. Visualize how what you see in front of you can potentially work in your meeting space. Try to put yourself in the shoes of that meeting planner. And if you have your doubts, and sometimes you do, sometimes you look at that RFP and say, oh, we don't have this meeting space. There's no way we have enough meeting space. Stop and think, what's this meeting planner know that I don't know? What do they have in mind that I haven't thought of? Because the meeting planner may very well explain to you, well, yes, I know that there's 13 breakouts on the RFP, but first of all, I was going to use the general session for 2 of those breakouts, which means I really only need 7 others because there's only 9 of them that ever happens at the same time, and we'll just flip and reset and flip and reset. And you're sitting there thinking, such versatility, such nimbleness, such flexibility, where have you been all my life? So reach out and ask the question, and if nothing else, it gives you an opportunity to connect with that meeting planner. You have now started the ball rolling. And I can't tell you how many times a hotel has turned down a piece of business, and then I reach out to them, and you know, I have gone online, I've printed the meeting space, I've labeled the meeting space. Here's the general session, here are the breakouts, here's where the food and beverage goes. I send it back to them, and they come back and say, I never envisioned using our meeting space that way, but if you say it'll work, great. What's the next step?
Like Glenna said, do your research. It's really important for us to do that. You know, how many times do you get an RFP where you have no idea what this company is? And You have to start there and do your research. Try not to schedule time to call the planner. Ask those questions, get to know them, look for what's important to them in the program. Because if I didn't call Glenna when I had questions on her program, I could have missed out on about 1,000 room nights total for 3 programs that were awarded to the hotel. And work together, get creative. There's always a way to make the program work with the right approach to make it a win-win for both parties.
I am not sure exactly how the initial conversation went, but I can imagine, knowing me and my love of retail, and the fact that she was at the Fairmont Dallas, I am pretty sure it had something to do with, how far is the Fairmont Dallas from Neiman Marcus? I would have asked that question. And her answer was about a mile. So I flew out to Dallas and checked into the hotel, met for breakfast the next morning. We ate breakfast in the Fairmont. We had the kind of conversation over breakfast that you have had hundreds of times with a client. And then we did the site visit. And the meeting space is on at least 2 floors and escalators. That made it pretty easy. And it came time for lunch, and she said, I thought we'd go outside the hotel for lunch. Okay. I'm like, sure, no problem. We went to Neiman Marcus for lunch. So all Neiman Marcus department stores have a cafe. And there are a couple of things that are standard at Neiman Marcus cafes. The first thing, to cleanse your palate, you will receive a small Demitas cup of chicken bouillon. And when they clear that, the next thing that hits the plate in front of you is the famous Neiman Marcus popover. And so then we ordered lunch and we kept talking, and after lunch we walked downstairs and we went through the shoe department and we talked about, shoes, and she loves Chanel and Louboutin, and I'm pretty much a Gucci and Manolo kind of gal. And we bonded, and it was love at first RFP and shoes. And so that's why Kelly said, you'll hear more about that later. That was the connection. She thought outside the box. She asked the right questions. She took 3 RFPs that covered 9 days, a small meeting, a medium-sized meeting, a large meeting. There was shared space. No, I don't need 3 separate offices, even though there are 3 meeting planners. They're all coming from Dupuis and Thais. They all know each other. They can share office space. We can share the room where everybody eats. We can share the room where all of the cases get stored. So, and we do have multiple breakouts, but they're not all going on over these 3 days. So between the load in and the setup and the meetings and the load out, 9 days for a total of 1,013 room nights. She sent a proposal that broke it down, color coded it, valued all of the concessions, gave me the general information of, we're this far from Love Field, we're that far from DFW, your average taxi ride costs X amount of dollars. I was a little like Caesar, I guess. I went, I saw, I conquered, I went home, I awarded the piece of business, and like I said, 1,013 room nights.
For me, just when I engage with new customers, from the hotel side, I kind of have 3 basic principles I start with. First one, build rapport. Again, try to find that golden nugget, something that you can attach yourself to with the customer. A lot of the time it's children, dogs, experiences. We have a lot of foodies out there in the world, and of course for Glenna and I, it was shoes. That was the easy thing. Here we have our shoes on today. The second one is build trust from the beginning. You've got to have that trust from the very start of the relationship. You can't break it at the beginning because really it's hard to come back from that trust. You've got to start at the beginning and stay true all the way through. As Glenna says, bring your cards to the table, face up. And if you do have deadline, everyone has deadlines, you've got to stick to them. Even if you have to break them, let them know ahead of time. Not a minute before the RFP is due or a day before the RFP is due. Keep that communication going. The third one for me, ultimate personal touch. Who doesn't love gifts, cards, anything in the mail addressed to you that shows up on the surprise? Before I was traveling here to Vegas, I ran into a Starbucks and I have a customer who loves the coffee cups from any city coffee cup. So of course I thought of her, I thought, I should pick up this coffee cup, send it to her, just thinking about you. And she has a collection of a beautiful hutch with about 100 of these coffee cups. And it sits in her kitchen. And every morning I know she'll think, okay, Megan brought this from Vegas, she brought me one from Dallas. So I constantly will be in their lives. So it doesn't have to be huge gestures. It can be, thank you notes for a signed contract, birthday cards, anniversary cards for the company, anything just little that you will constantly kind of keep your touch on that certain customer.
There was one thing that wasn't covered on the RFP. One of my requests was guest room connectivity. Is it included in the room rate? So this economic thing hit the country back in the fourth quarter of 2008. Hoteliers became very creative at offering things that had never been offered before. I refer to this as Pandora's box, and you're not putting her back. But one of the things that full-service luxury hotels began to offer was complimentary guest room connectivity, or you included it in the room rate. And I said, you will never step backwards from this. This has now become a standard. But it wasn't addressed in the concession, so it was the one question I had to go back and say, excuse me, but this is a hot button issue for me and it's not covered. And she's like, oh no, that's okay. Here's a link. Push this link out to every one of your potential attendees. They click the link, they join the Fairmont President's Club. Immediately, as a member, they get guest room connectivity. So that solved that problem. I mean, it was asked, it was answered. It was the easiest thing that I've ever had to accomplish. As that says, the dumbest question is the one that you never ask. And the smarter you are, the smarter you all are to us, the more we will come to depend on you and appreciate you and keep giving you business.
Yeah, as hoteliers, there's things we come across daily that are probably not always the first thing you want to offer or you possibly can offer. You've got to come up with a creative solution. For me, that was an easier one, but again, I didn't think how many 100 surgeons had to go and take their personal time and log in and give the personal information to the hotel, and at the end they were granted the waived internet rental. But I didn't know, thinking in my mind, really are they going to want to take the time to do that 5 minutes out of their day? That could seem like a lot for them to ask. So you've got to think creatively and put together, those kind of out-of-the-box ideas that maybe this would work. Don't overthink it. I guess a stupid, potential idea wouldn't be as stupid as you would think it would be. So, and for me, in the sales process, I try to constantly be a couple steps ahead of my customer. Luckily, the first market I started on was the Northeast, so I had to be, or else I'd be just eaten alive. And now I handle the Southeast, so.
Slower, gentle.
But again, giving those details ahead, that always appreciated, those color-coded diagrams and the agendas, and put the agendas in order. How many times do you get breakouts that, I work in Delphi, that you merge out and you have 10 breakouts and they're 1, 10, 9, 6, and put those in order so it's easy for a customer who has so many breakouts to be like, okay, great, she's got all 10 right here, move on to the next day. Those simple steps just make it so much easier for the customer to do.
We move on to nurturing. In any relationship, I don't care whether it's personal or professional, if you don't nurture it, it's a little bit like a vegetable or a plant. It literally dies on the vine. So there's different ways of nurturing, and I'm going to say something that hopefully you will all appreciate. Nurturing goes both ways. It's not enough for you as the hoteliers to nurture a growing relationship with a meeting planner. A meeting planner needs to reciprocate. Often, when I come to these types of events or to IMEX, a lot of times if I've got a program that's brewing, I'll bring an RFP with me. I'll make a half a dozen copies of it. I'll run into hoteliers that say to myself, you've got the perfect hotel for this. Take a look at this. If it doesn't work for you, I know you've got a sister hotel in the same city. Feel free to pass it along, send it along. You know, those are ways that it's easy to build connections. People remember you because, you know, you're the person walking around with an RFP in your pocket. That makes you, you know, one of the most popular people in the room. Years ago, a lot of you remember a fabulous event that used to be in Chicago called ITME. That was big. It's now been replaced by IMEX. But Kelly Foy's birthday always fell over ITME. And it was the biggest birthday bash any person probably ever had. Every year.
Why not?
I can only imagine what your wife must have thought about that. That was before the days of the popularity of Facebook, so she probably wasn't tracking it. But you know, those were opportunities to build relationships, build rapport, and I'll never forget that your birthday is the 26th day of September. You know, so these are opportunities, you know, to connect with people, and they'll connect with you, and you build, and you know, the nurturing goes both ways. Our lunch at Neiman Marcus meant something to me. It said to me that she and I had something in common, and that she read her client pretty darn well. So we went, and we had a great time. And she got 3 signed contracts. And then she left, and she went and got married and went on a honeymoon. And I moved on because I had lots and lots and lots of RFPs. And that year at Christmas, look what came in the mail from Megan, a Neiman Marcus cookbook, which I still use. It has the popover recipe, which I've never perfected. But I love this cookbook because it came from Megan. And it's always in my kitchen. And even if I'm not using it all the time, I look at it and I think of Megan. And I love that cookbook. So, you know, and obviously I brought it with me today to make a point. So she's got lots of creative ideas.
Yeah, this is a fun one. So, of course, it's easy to keep up these relationships. We have little things that we send, the tchotchkes, you know, the coffee mug that everyone can have their brand on it. And so every time this planner takes a sip out of it, you know, they'll see it. But I have something fun that I hope you guys will enjoy. I don't know from the second row. Can you guys see what these are? Peeps. So for the customers that follow Fantadeer, sometimes they call them a slow fade. It's like a date where you're like hot and heavy and you're on, and all of a sudden they fade. What happened? What did I do? So I send them peeps. I send them a personalized card saying, you know, dear so-and-so, I understand, you know, your program is still slated for X, Y, and Z. I haven't heard a peep from you. And I send it in the mail. And immediately, most of the time, I get a phone call with a laugh on the other end that says, that was so good, I'm so sorry, I've been traveling or I've been sourcing the world, and I just haven't had a chance to think about Dallas. So it kind of just brings back the relationship, you know, back into your court of, here, you just made me smile. Yeah, I don't know, some people love them, some people hate these. But if anyone wants them, that's what you're taking today.
I had this vision that there's a landfill someplace called Peeps.
There was a piece that was sent back. Yes. But luckily it was a bad address.
Okay, moving on. Understanding their business. I heard today in a breakout that one of the big vertical markets that you all want to try to reach is pharma. A side sister to pharma is medical device, and then there's the tech world, the growing world of tech. As a former pharmaceutical and medical device meeting planner, I can tell you that one of the banes of our existence and one of the worst things we had to deal with were those pharma and ADVA med code guidelines. And nobody liked them because they just meant a lot of paperwork. And you always appreciated the hoteliers that took the time to read them, understand them, and figure out ways to help you work around them. And there are ways to work around them. You know, there has never been a guideline created anywhere by anybody that somewhere doesn't have a loophole. Because the people that create them, and I know this for a fact because I used to work for a US Senator, there's never been a piece of legislation passed in Congress that if you read it closely enough and knew it and understood it well enough, you could find the loophole, because they will leave themselves an escape hatch. Well, those guidelines are the same way. And so, you know, educate yourself. If you're handling a heavy pharmaceutical market, educate yourself so that your client comes to depend on you. Anticipate their needs before they even ask. You know, don't become part of the problem. Be the solution, be their answer, and they will love you and reward you and come to you again and again.
For us in the Dallas office, one of our best practices that, you know, hopefully you guys maybe will start using or already using, is to keep each other updated on the new industry trends, regulations, budget cuts, or overall market changes. It's a job within itself to keep up with the world we live in today, and we've designated, you know, certain accounts to each other with Google alerts, or any kind of alerts, even competitor alerts is great as well, just to keep you up to date and share on a, you know, daily basis. We have a lineup every day that you can share, or a monthly sales meeting. But those are so great to keep ahead of, you know, your competitors and be able to incorporate those into your proposals and concessions. You know, we all know prices are down, and you can be, you know, sound very educated and you've done your research when your oil customer comes to you and has to cancel all 5 meetings, and you're like, why? That just doesn't make you look like a good partnership there. So be ahead of the game, you know, get to know those, use the Google alerts, use your tools. Does anyone do the skim in here? Skim emails? Okay. The skim is a great tool for, you know, a quick dose of what happened in the world yesterday. It's a one email, it's pretty witty, it explains, you know, 101 of what happened. So I highly recommend if you guys can, you know, subscribe to the skim. It's a great tool as well.